Okay, let's call the UW Extension meeting to order on 8:35. All members are present except Supervisor Agamite. I did not hear from him, so let the record show that Steve Agamite, who's our new member, is not present. I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as published and also approve the minutes from September 1st.
I'll make motion.
By Joanne, second by Gary, to adopt the agenda and approve the minutes. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Motion carried. Public comment? Anyone from the public? Seeing none. Move to educator reports. Everyone should have all the reports from the educators. Any questions or comments on the reports or any additional comments from the educators? Looks like you guys have been busy again.
I could do that, right? There you have it there. So the state senior horse judging team won the state competition. So they're headed to nationals in Louisville, Kentucky. So some good news and recognition for Kewaunee County. So just a big shout out to them. That's always worth noting. So they're on their way and making their way to Kentucky in November.
Renee. So I was wondering if you could speak a little more to the Aging Mastery Program.
Sure. The Aging Mastery Program is a The Aging Mastery Program is a nationally recognized program. Comes from the National Council on Aging. And that's something that I've been offering here in our county for several years. I have another class coming up soon. And in addition with that program, I was involved in some research in order to see how that program may potentially be a good intervention to reduce ageism. And we don't talk a lot about ageism as one of the protected classes, but it is. And there's a lot of research. I went through some different meta-analysis to identify, what impacts that we have on our population due to ageism. So it's basically just a prejudice against individuals based on their age, and particularly we in our society value younger individuals. So when we think of ageism, we think of older individuals. So the Aging Mastery Program identifies that we have an aging population. We know that our population is increasing in numbers at the later years of life. So, in some counties here in Wisconsin, our county population is expected to be as high as even 50% in some rural counties of individuals over the age of 60. And with some of the research that was done on typical retirement age and Social Security income, the Aging Mastery Program recognizes that many individuals have this gift of time. We recognize it as this many extra years after your working years. And what are individuals going to do with that extra time? And one of the things we have to, consider is if we're having ageist views, and many of us, it's a bias against ourselves. Like when I'm older, I'm too old to do X, Y, and Z. So it's about kind of changing the mindset really of individuals of what are they going to be capable of doing. I look at individuals in this room and on our county board, and I'm assuming that many of you are in the 60s or over. And and we want people to be engaged in their community, have civic involvement, and be able to continue to contribute to the community, and not feel that because of age or because of health problems, you're not able to continue to be contributing members of society. So the Aging Mastery Program talks about health real broadly, not just what you eat and how much you exercise, but how are you investing your finances to extend your longevity and and engagement in the community later on. And we talk about community engagement and healthy relationships. So it's a 10-session program that really looks at what we can do with that gift of time in our later lives and how we can best be taking care of our needs so that we can care for others as well.
And where are these, where are most of the people attending, where are they coming from or finding out or recommended?
Yeah, the next program is offered at St. John Church in Luxembourg because they have a nice wide open space for us to meet, and they have a setup kind of like this with screens and microphones. So that's where our next meeting is, our next session is. We've held sessions at the Kewaunee Health and Fitness Center. I had a partnership with Sarah Schiller a few years ago to get it kicked off there. And we've had it at also in Algoma at the Algoma Wellness Center. So we'll be planning another one soon, potentially here. Maybe there are a few happening statewide that people from our county can participate on a Zoom session too. They're not as engaging, of course, but it is another option for those that want to participate virtually. So I can share information with you when we have another one scheduled.
Okay, yeah. So you know what? I'm glad that you touch on like how they can be involved in the community, because I find myself having conversations with a lot of people around my age. I have a friend who's 70, she's still working. Another one's 68, they're working full time. When I have a conversation with them about them leaving work because it's kind of difficult for them, maybe physically, to keep working that much, but they're like, well, what would I do? And I tell them, there's all kinds of stuff to do. You just choose like, what's your passion? If you don't like it, do something else. And I say like anything, any agency, organization that operates on volunteers always needs people. And they're like, oh, I'm not going to volunteer. I'm not going to do that. So I don't know what what's going on in their head about that, or if they're thinking, oh, those I can't do that, or what it is, but I get a little frustrated by that.
Yeah, and that is common that we hear that. So, finding the right balance between volunteer opportunities that maybe aren't overwhelming for them, but maybe just, where they're doing a little bit. Gig jobs actually are kind of becoming popular too for the older population, being able to kind of work when you want and not feel committed to a particular workplace.
I also had another thing for you. I found it when you said about the youth, and it's 16% of the high school kids have considered suicide. Is that a Wisconsin statistic or a national? Or what?
On that particular statistic, Kewaunee County matches the state statistics. So the state's rate is 16%, and Kewaunee County, when Jill helped last time when we surveyed the high school students, it was like 16.4% for Kewaunee County.
I guess I didn't really know what the number was, but in my head, I would have thought it was more like maybe at the most 10. So I found that rather, that's like about 1 in 6.
Yep.
It's a really lot.
Yeah, on my next month report, you'll see I'll have an update on a suicide prevention program that we're going to be offering again. Sheriff Joski is the trainer for QPR suicide prevention programs, and we have a class coming up in December.
I think he's able to have a good rapport with the younger kids. Sheriff Johnson.
Mhm. Yeah, that particular training is for adults to recognize the signs in youth. So adults.
Steve is on his way. He must have went to Luxembourg instead of coming here. So he is on his way.
Oh, okay. And so, Erica, so you did a lot of farm focus with the selling team farm. So are there other farms doing that? I would imagine it's pretty expensive and.
Yeah, it's pretty common. It's not super new technology, but it's more people are adopting that technology now. So, yeah. If you went to breakfast on the farm this summer at Augustine's, they have those there, and they come in different types. Some of them are just a little, like a button in the ear, and some of them are a collar. So just going out to a farm, you wouldn't necessarily see them unless you knew what you were looking for. But yeah, they collect a lot of data.
And you kept mentioning about you don't know with how much labor I have and I do all this, so I
Mhm.
would think that could help with. if
Yes,
there's labor shortages too,
it's
so
definitely
have that
does.
knowledge and going
It
on.
actually puts essentially another person, you would consider it almost another person out there to see what they're doing, see what the cows are doing. And so you can see their activity without actually knowing they're not, without having to be out there and seeing it. So yeah,
And
it's
once
pretty
again,
cool.
Thank you for those focuses, because they're just, they're 5 minutes, anybody can watch them, but they really have a lot in them. You learn a lot. from
I'm
them.
releasing
So
one
it's very
today.
interesting.
It's rendering right now, or it should be done now. But the farmer said he didn't want to be on the video very much, and I sent him a text last night. I said, it's 4 minutes and 54 seconds, and you're on there 1 minute and 9 seconds. So, so they take a lot to put together, because you need to get a lot of other video, but yeah, they're turning out pretty good. And then I actually released another one that was very, very popular. It was just super short. It was 30 seconds, and it basically said, why do farmers leave 4 rows of corn standing in a field? And just from what I saw the other day, 775 people watched that video. So I thought that was pretty good. I don't know. It's 30 seconds long. It got shared a lot. So yeah, I just was driving to work one day and I saw that, and I thought, I bet people wonder why they leave those out there. So
Exactly, yeah.
Anything else on educator reports? If not, we'll go to Judy. Excuse me.
So in regards to the 3-county meeting to talk about the regional ag concept and moving forward, it would be great if we could look at some dates and possible times. I did talk to the Brown County Planning Development and Transportation Committee, which Extension reports to in Brown County, and 3 of the members from that committee were interested in participating as well. So if we could look at some possible dates, I know Erica had shared that she would be willing to contact Kinnards to make certain that they would be available, would be willing to host a tour and have some space for meeting. If we could look at some possible dates, that would be great. So I'm thinking it probably needs to be later this month. There's still quite a bit of corn in the field, so, or even early November.
Did you have any date that might work? Or have you thought about it?
I haven't really thought about it, so.
just knowing you were going to be asking Kinnards, and I just leave them a message a couple of days ago. And I said, and sometimes it takes him 3 or 4 or 5
Mhm.
phone calls to get him to call you back, because he's very busy. We probably need to come up with at least 3 or 4 dates.
So does it make sense to look at early November with a lot of harvest to be done yet? And I know
Should
with
be pretty
equipment, it
much
goes
done.
pretty fast. So I'm looking at maybe the 27th of October as a potential. That would be a Wednesday.
I will not be here.
Okay. What about the 28th of October?
No, I'm going to be at the National ESP meeting.
Okay, okay. What about the 20th?
What time frame are we talking?
Late afternoon.
I mean, like, when you
3.
say late, is it like 3 o'clock?
I
or
was
2
thinking,
o'clock,
no, I
or-
was thinking 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock, 3:30.
I can do
Plenty
it.
of time.
Okay. How about if we just go to November? what does that first week look like for late afternoon? We'll certainly have, this committee will meet on the 3rd. Is there any time that first week? For late afternoons, that would work?
I can do the 3rd, 4th.
Okay. What about you?
I can't do Thursdays.
Okay,
I could do the 3rd
okay,
I can do the 3rd.
okay.
or the 10th.
And 10th, that would be a possibility. The Dare County Ag and Extension Committee is supposed to meet that day and most of the members want to come. So I'll check with them to see if we could just utilize this rather than having them their meeting. They'll do this instead. So I'll put that down. What about the following week, the week of the 15th? I can't do the 16th. What about the 15th or the 17th?
I know enough ahead, I can do it, but otherwise it's not a good week for me.
Okay, 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 okay,
As long as I know about it, you know, enough ahead.
okay, okay. So let's look at the 3rd, the 10th, and the 17th of November. Thank you. Okay, if not, let me know and we'll. So thank you, Erica, for making that contact. That'll be appreciated greatly. Also too, we're doing regional crop educator interviews Thursday and Friday. They've lumped them all together. There's 3 different areas. So we're going to be doing a lot of interviews on Thursday and Friday. So we'll keep you posted on that. So that's moving forward. And otherwise, I don't know too much more.
Do you want to say anything about the proposed 2022 budget?
So would you like to speak to that? I don't know much.
I guess I was just more here if there were questions. If you see in the budget, it's pretty much a cost to continue. The one item that is in there is, again, funds to assist in the relocation. I know to Luxembourg, I know that there have been issues about having space for offices and privacy. And in my conversations with Judy is that from the county standpoint, we can create with furniture, especially in this modern day, walls that can go all the way up to the ceiling that can help with noise and allow for privacy. My big concern is adding walls, actual walls to the space, which therefore, if anything moves, then that doesn't allow for flexibility of the space. So the feeling would be is that extension can work with, and I'll just use as an example, KI Interiors to ensure that the space that each of the educators need will be able to fit their needs and still be able to allow them to work in that middle space in the Luxembourg offices.
And I think the only other item on our budget was we have dollars in for laptops.
Yeah, and I think that was added, that was approved.
That was
it not?
approved. Well, we talked about that like really early
Right.
earlier this year. So not realizing that their computers are quite old and so it was time for an upgrade. So we've worked with Ross and the finance director in regards to getting that into the budget. So I appreciate Ross's help with that and
That's it.
the finance director, and that's in there as well. So they just need better, more up-to-date technology than what they currently have. Otherwise, the budget looks pretty much the same. I think the only other changes is that from travel, I reduced that and then gave each of the educators $300 for professional development. So it's still the same amount. It's just that reduced travel a little bit so they have some dollars for professional development. Because I know some of them have wanted to go to trainings and it wasn't really clear in the budget. So I thought this would make it a little bit clearer. So those are the only changes. Otherwise, it looks the same.
Do you know when the contracts are gonna be coming for Scott to sign?
So typically I don't do anything with the contracts until the budget gets approved by the county board. So your meeting is the 9th of November. So after that, I can share those with you. I would need to work on, Madison wants them already. And I'm like, we haven't even been approved by, anybody. So I will, I can certainly share that with you at the November meeting, what it would look like, but we won't do anything until after the budget meeting. And then they'll go to Scott for signature. So I'll put that on the agenda to share the contract in November.
Can I backtrack a little bit
Sure.
and go back to Erica about your little write-up with the Peninsula Ag Research and then the dairy forage plots? Can you explain to me what that is?
The research station in Door County is almost exclusively for fruit. And so they basically do cherries, apples, grapes, now some raspberries and other small fruits. But recently, since Jamie Patton, who used to be an educator, a county educator, went to the nutrient pest management program, she's been doing projects at the research station on cover crops and other forages that you can feed to cattle. And that's never been done there before because they didn't have any kind of small harvesting equipment. You have to have specialized harvesting equipment in order to collect and weigh and do all of these things when you do research plots. So they're doing them up there now where they can collect, first of all, plant and grow research plots, which includes replication and different treatments and all these different kinds of whatever the project happens to be and whatever the crop has to be. They basically do something like you would have a research project in a lab. They're just doing it out in the field and focusing on forages. Like a lot of crops you don't necessarily feed to an animal, so these are more like some of them are grain crops, but a lot of them are forages like legumes, alfalfa. Some of them are cover crops where they would plant them and you normally wouldn't feed it to an animal, but they're harvesting them for that purpose to see if an animal can, eat that. And if it's a cheaper way to feed an animal while still providing all of the good nutrients they need. So that's an opportunity for me to do some projects up there because I really haven't been able to do a lot up there because it's all been focused on fruit.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. And Jamie's really fun to work with.
Speaking of fruit, do you have any knowledge about the apple crop this year? There was a guy on TV the other day talking about the apple crop
I know it.
and said that there's a lot of apples, but they're not as big as normal because of something with the heavy moisture in June and then the drought time. So it affected the size of the apples. I don't know.
There's a little bit of that, and we had that real hard frost at the end of May that damaged a lot of the blossoms, and so it's just kind of been a weird year for fruit. But the cherries were great, I understand. So yeah, I believe that was a good crop this year.
Do you have anything else, Judy?
I don't.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, anybody have any other issues they want to discuss with the committee? Otherwise, we'll look at next meeting dates. And I think we have November 3rd set already. And if we look at December, it would be the first thing with the first Wednesday, it would be December 1st. That's okay with everyone. Okay. Joanne, okay. Okay, if there's nothing else to come before the committee, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Gary, second by Joanne to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, hearing none, we are adjourned at 9 o'clock.